But let's have a look at business now. And after posting a record 2.7 billion shillings loss, Mumias Sugar has initiated a three-pronged strategy to get itself back to profitability. KTN's Michael Karanja sat down with Mumias acting CEO, who was candid about just what is needed to get the sugar miller back on its feet, which includes a fresh round of layoffs.
Not the best of results one would have expected to announce to people, to actual shareholders at Mumias. 2.7 billion shilling net loss, not something that many of us expected. Or should it have been expected?
Well, thank you for that. Well, first of all, apologies to the shareholders for the very poor results. It was in some ways probably not expected, but what happened is I think the company went through a very challenging year over the last 12 months, starting from 1st of July to June this year. And there were several challenges, primarily around sugar prices. There were challenges around the availability of cane and also the cost of cane. But significantly, this past year has seen serious challenges around the management of Mumia Sugar Company.
The thing that we're getting from the sugar industry is that sugar industry right now is not competitive, especially now that we have these cheap imports that are coming into the country. Just how bad is it?
It is terrible. It is very bad.
Yeah.
The facet of cheap imports is really killing the industry, because you find that because of sometimes high prices of sugar that we attract in our market, you find a serious flood of imports that are coming in, and the average that is sometimes talked about is 250,000 tons and above.
Yeah.
In fact, now it's a very critical period for the industry, in the sense that the prices are just beginning to pick up. The average price now, you're looking at about 4,500 from about 3,400. This is for a 50 kg.
Yeah.
Now that will now attract the importers. It is cheap because it comes in illegally.
Yeah, we've seen cases of actually bags that have been nabbed in at the port of Mombasa, bags that have been within the bag of perhaps Mumia's sugar. Is that now where millers such as yourself are actually getting undercut by these illegal shipments?
We are seriously getting undercut, because the importers that are involved in this business in some ways also find our bags. And the cheap imports are repackaged into Mumia sugar bags and then on sold into the consumer outlets.
But just looking at your financials yesterday, it wasn't all bad news. I saw your revenues were up about 9.4% to about 12 billion shillings. So there's something that seems to be going right at Mumias. It can't be all bad.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah. Mumias,
in fact, is a solid business in the production and sale of sugar and the byproducts that come out of a production process. The bad results are, you're right, we had a very good increase in our top line, our turnover to 13 billion.
Yeah.
But despite that increase, the problems were that we had two problems. One was the cost of producing that turnover, the cost of production, which was impacted more significantly. Cost generally would go high, but I think we have a cost structure that needs to be realigned. But additional to that, the 13 billion that was reported as turnover should have been more, because the prices also went down because of the cheap imports.
Yeah. What kind of measures are you putting in place just to ensure that you dig yourself out of this 2.7 billion shilling hole that you are in?
The 2.7 billion loss, you need to look at it in the context of two things. One, obviously, was the prices, and that's really, we can't control some of it, but a lot of it is beyond our control.
Yeah.
It depends on policies around government in monitoring borders, in monitoring, the whole regime of imports, and not just sugar. But the other factor that led to that 2.7 loss, which would be unusual and not recurring, was a huge loss that Mumias incurred in the imports of about 10,000 tons. The whole process went sour, and we incurred a cost of about 1 billion shillings.
You say that you're looking at your human resource structure, because the way Mumias currently is reconstituted, you think you're a bit heavy in terms of the workload. So is this perhaps an indicator that perhaps you are looking to rationalize?
Yes, I think we must rationalize. Yeah. Our production per employee in terms of benchmarks are established elsewhere, and even before, our production cost per employee is too high. Our revenue per employee again is too high. So we have about an establishment of about 1,900 people structured in different categories: management, middle management, lower level union, that kind of categorization. But it must be rationalized.